Fashion has always been a tool of communication through history. The love for beauty and aesthetics is something that's pretty common to the whole world.
As someone who works in the fashion industry and someone who has friends who don't work in the fashion industry, probably the thing that grates me the most is this idea that, oh, you work in fashion, how exciting, how this. I'm just too busy to be part of that. I don't really care about fashion. Fashion isn't my thing. Meanwhile, we're all sitting here in clothes. If you're wearing clothes, you're part of the fashion industry, whether you like it or not.
My name is Rebecca. I'm from France, and I grew up in the fashion capital of the world, Paris. In Paris and beyond, fashion is a massive business. It's a $1 trillion industry, employing millions of people. Fashion is talking to us every day through advertisement, TV, and social media. It speaks to us through celebrities and influencers. It's on our phones, on our bodies, in our conversations.
A lot of people express themselves through clothes. That's a massive human need for us to present ourselves in a way that we want to be perceived individually. And clothing plays a huge role in how I want to be perceived, how I want to communicate, and what I want the other people to think about me.
Fashion can be a very creative form of expressing ourselves, and that can be fun and it can be rewarding. It also can be about exclusivity. If you have access to luxury fashion, for example, that can be about power. And having access to power in a visual format has a lot of social currency.
Fashion is such a brilliant tool for communication and expression, but I think because of those really lovely aspects, the social and environmental impacts have maybe been slightly overlooked.
Over the recent years, the fashion industry has been confronted with environmental and human rights issues.
We live in a visual culture, and because fashion is a visual medium, it is seen as just being about surface and just about vanity. But fashion supply chains are incredibly serious. So we have this really interesting disconnect between a fashion industry that is about fun and frivolity and self-expression, and we have the seriousness of this fashion industry having these real-world global impacts.
People are becoming more conscious about how fashion pollutes the planet and contributes to the climate crisis. And now there's a conversation happening about ethics and sustainability in fashion. But there's a side of fashion that is completely ignored, and no one wants to talk about it.
I've always loved animals since I was a kid. I don't remember the names of my friends in kindergarten, but I remember the neighbors' dogs. I always begged my parents to get a dog, and the answer was always no. But I did have some bunnies, and I loved them so much. After graduating, I moved to China for my career, and then my life just became work, shopping, and party. And that was it for several years. But then my dream of having a dog came back, and that's when I adopted this guy. He was rescued from dog meat. He was going to be eaten, and his fur was going to be sold as well. I always found it so shocking that something like that was happening. From that day, whenever I find a stray in the street, a dog or a cat, I always stop what I'm doing to rescue them because something really bad can happen to them. I support some nonprofits for wildlife conservation. I volunteer myself sometimes, and I really thought I was doing my best. But recently I was going out, and right before heading out, I checked myself in the mirror, and I was wearing a leather jacket with a fur trim, carrying my leather handbag and wearing leather boots. And I realized I'm an animal lover wearing animals.
Wearing fur, leather, or wool is so ingrained in our culture that we forget it comes from an animal.
Animals are everywhere in fashion. Whether it's a wool sweater or a pair of leather boots, those animals are there, but they've disappeared into fashion objects.
It's in plain sight, yet out of our minds. I started to think about it, and many questions came up. Can I love animals and wear them too? Is it sustainable and better for the planet? What about the people who made my bags and shoes? I realized I don't know what I'm paying for.
We have to take what we're putting on our bodies every day slightly seriously. And then, of course, we can go back to how things are made. And that's when the problem begins.
All major brands provide information about sustainability and workers on their websites. But when it comes to the animals they use, there's not much information at all. I emailed several brands to get more details, and no one replied. After waiting for weeks, I decided, since I'm not getting any responses, I have to look for my own answers. In fashion, the most common animal material is leather. Most leather we wear is actually produced in a few countries: India, Russia, Italy, Brazil, and China. And as a lot of leather shoes are made in India, this is where my journey begins. Kanpur is called the leather city of the world. It produces almost a third of India's leather. Many international brands source their leather here at low cost. According to India's Council for Leather Exports, fast fashion and luxury brands source leather from India. The list is long and includes names like Armani, Dior, Calvin Klein, Mango, Guess, Tommy Hilfiger, H&M, Nike, Versace, Walmart, Zara, and Zegna. Okay, but how do we make leather? We all know leather is the name for processed skins that we use for fashion, cars, or furniture. But although leather is widely available, making leather is a complex process. Tanning is necessary to transform a raw hide into leather and stop the skins from rotting. The stages before tanning involve salting, dehairing, degreasing, and soaking. The skins go through many baths with different chemicals to further remove unwanted hairs and fats, to prepare them for tanning, dyeing, and finishing. Almost 90% of all leather produced today uses chromium sulfate in the tanning process. Chromium tanned leather is called wet blue, and wet blue gets exported all over the world. But chromium sulfate is highly toxic. In India, the discharge of solid waste and wastewater containing chromium is a major environmental issue. I meet with Rakesh Jaiswal, who has been studying the impact of the leather industry for the last 30 years.
Leather industry is highly polluting industry. The wastewater is a deadly cocktail of chemicals. These are damaging to the environment. From 400 tanneries, roughly 50 million liters of wastewater is generated every day in Kanpur.
50 million liters of wastewater. That's 20 Olympic swimming pools discharged every single day in this area alone.
And this is how River Ganga gets polluted by highly toxic tannery wastewater.
When you see the kind of inequalities that comes from manufacturing world, there are children who are struggling, there are older people who are struggling because their waterways, their water supply, their soil, everything's been contaminated because of toxic dyes. It's disheartening.
The factories emit smoke which contaminates the air. The wastewater which is generated, it's not properly treated and not safe. And this water is used for irrigating the farmlands. It affects the soil, it affects the groundwater, and it also affects the livelihood of the people.
What are the common health issues that people face in Kanpur?
People are mostly afflicted with skin problems, kidney problems, cancers. The leprosy rate is very high.
हाँ, आसपास गांव में 150 आदमी की दिक्कत है। सब गंदे नालक जरिए से दिक्कत है। हमारी वाइफ चलाती है घर का खर्चा। अब हमारी अंगुलियाँ है खराब तो हम कहाँ चला पाएंगे?
अब जैसा कमाए पाते हैं उससे खिलाए पाते हैं। पढ़ाए बच्चों को नहीं पा रहे हैं। देखो पानी लगाते रहे खेत में पूरा पेट फफदिया उठा रहा है। ये देखो, इसको बंद करवाओ।
There's no management. There is no accountability. There is no system in place to protect the very people who are making the leather products for you. And when you see that up close and personal, it changes your world. It changes your worldview.
The most significant climate, water, and land use impacts that are happening in the leather industry happen upstream of tanning. So before you even get to the tanning process, we're already dealing with one of the most environmentally damaging industries.
According to the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, leather has one of the worst impacts on the planet. As a raw material, before tanning, cow leather is worse for the environment than synthetic leather and polyester. Not just because of greenhouse gas emission, but because leather is one thirsty product. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, one cowhide alone has a water footprint of over 100,000 liters of water. It means one pair of leather shoes uses as much water as one person drinking the daily recommended amount for 10 years. But I always thought that skins are just a byproduct of the meat industry, and they go to waste if we don't use them. In fact, skins are very valuable.
The leather industry is a profit-seeking industry that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars globally. It's not a waste-diverting charity, and the myth that it's a byproduct is one of the most pervasive myths that allows and enables people to continue participating in it because they believe that they're just making use of waste. The reality is that studies show it would actually be better for the environment if we threw away those skins and let them rot in a dump rather than turning it into leather.
Obviously, with the volume of fashion that we produce globally, the material impacts that we have are really, really significant. The entire system is having a really, really big environmental impact beyond the tanning impacts that I think people talk about quite frequently. The level to which our demand has risen for leather is playing a massive role in deforestation in the Amazon, for example.
The Amazon rainforest is estimated to be over 25 million years old. It is home to millions of species. It's one of the world's most complex ecosystems, and it covers 40% of the South American continent.
The importance of the Amazon forest is absolutely unique for the Brazilian people, but also for the entire world. Without forest, we don't have water quality. We don't have humidity distributed along the country and the continent, and of course the world. Without forest, we don't have wildlife. And if we don't have wildlife, we don't have ecological equilibrium.
So keeping forests standing is essential to how rainfall and water flows work. That's essential for growing things like food. The Amazon is really close to reaching a tipping point where it switches from being a massive absorber of carbon to starting to emit carbon back into the atmosphere. In terms of the impacts on Indigenous peoples and local communities, we know that that impacts their livelihoods, it impacts their food security and their physical security. There's also the additional impacts of how it affects their self-determination. So it's not just the physical loss of the forest, but it really rocks the foundations of how they exist in the world as well. I think there's a lot of global concern and outcry about what's been happening in the Amazon, but people may not necessarily understand about how what they eat or what they wear or where their money is kept has a really direct link to what's happening on the ground there as well.
Deforestation is happening in Brazil because of cattle ranching and livestock production. Forests are a kind of obstacle to the animal grazing and the animal production.
Out of all the deforested land in Brazil, a shocking 80% has been cleared by cattle ranchers.
Approximately one animal needs around 10,000 square meters to graze. If we consider that Brazil has 213 million animals, and I'm talking here only about cattle, you can imagine the large space that must be occupied by animals. The huge interest in leather also drives the deforestation.
As it turns out, leather and meat are two sides of the same coin. The biggest meat producer in the world, Brazilian giant JBS, is also the biggest leather producer.
So in our latest report, we found that between 2017 and 2019, 3 of the largest companies in the cattle supply chains, Marfrig, JBS, Minerva, had been buying in their supply chains from lands that were connected to tens of thousands of hectares to deforestation. And during that time, they received $9 billion provided directly or facilitated by household banks like Deutsche Bank, HSBC, Morgan Stanley, Barclays. Often banks will state that they're concerned about climate change or biodiversity loss, that they care for forests, and that they respect human rights. But if you choose to finance companies which are operating in high-risk sectors, in high-risk places, and you're not doing the basic checks and balances, then you can't be shocked when these connections are made between their money, the companies that they're backing, and deforestation. And if we're not taking a stand about what our companies and banks or investors are doing, then we're complicit in the problem as well.
Greed is one of the main drivers of the destruction of the environment. Deforestation actually is neither cheap nor easy. You must be very powerful and have a lot of money and, of course, political influence. The companies that buy leather, of course they know what they are doing. It's part of the business to have a very weak traceability.
Because there are middlemen every step of the supply chain, and cattle and skins are moved constantly from one state to another, there are no guarantees that the skins don't come from deforested land. 80% of the Brazilian leather is produced for the international markets. It is exported all over the world, including to Italy. When we buy luxury, we pay for the brand, for the quality, and also for how the product is made. It's the luxury guarantee. Globally, the market for leather goods is estimated to be worth $250 billion. And in this market, made in Italy is a promise of quality and tradition. At the International Leather Fair Lineapelle, I register as a buyer to make contact with several Italian tanneries.
So where is your tannery?
North of Italy.
North of Italy, yes.
Here I have all the convenience of the leather, the type of leather.
Oh, do you have some from Brazil as well?
Yes.
Yes. Which skin fruit is your?
This one. Okay. It's from Brazil.
Okay.
And these are the leather for shoes.
After collecting key contacts, I ask an Italian friend to help me get some more information.
Buongiorno, è possibile parlare con Bernardo? Il pellame viene dall'Italia o la prendete da...
Pellame no.
Non è italiano?
Soprattutto per il mondo. D'Africa facciamo noi Algeria, Marocco, Tunisia, Turchia. Noi facciamo foderame, il pellame arriva direttamente dal Pakistan, già finito.
Pellame italiano ne avete per caso?
No. pelli italiane, Rachel, glielo dico a denti stretti, ma non esistono quasi più.
Mi potrebbe dire con che brand, con che compagnie lavora lei, qualche nome, così giusto per sapere?
Il Michael Kors, Coach, Kate Spade, Jimmy Choo, Sandy, con Moschino, Acne, Balli, Ferragamo, e con Alexander Wang, Diori, come le ho detto, Regenbon,
Ferragamo, Valentino, con Max Mara, con Gucci, cioè con tutti, con Jimmy Choo.
Lavoriamo con Lanvin in questo momento e Isabel Marano, il gruppo Kering, col gruppo Rehoming, insomma i gruppi della Chanel, con Ferragamo, con Prada, cioè lavoriamo con tutti praticamente.
Ho capito, perfetto.
All these tanneries are located in a small town in Tuscany between Florence and Pisa. In Santa Croce Sulano, hundreds of small to large tanneries produce over a third of Italian leather. This small town alone generates over €1 billion in sales for luxury leather goods every year. The reality behind Made in Italy is a stark contrast compared to its prestigious reputation. Here, it is difficult to speak to workers and get a peek at what goes on behind the heavy metal doors of tanneries.
Lo vorresti fare? Siete fare delle riprese? No. No. Abbiamo fatto anche un po' su. Anche andare tranquillamente a Perugiano. No, guarda. Scusa, urgente. Abbiamo fatto riprese. Spegni sta roba.
Cameras and outsiders are clearly not welcome. Only one tannery owner agrees to speak to us without the cameras.
E dove sono le pelli?
La provenienza da tutto il mondo. Da tutto il mondo. Vengono dall'Africa, dalla Nuova Zelanda. Quelle più pregiate sono quelle della Francia, Italia e Polonia.
Just like in India, chemicals are heavily used in Tuscany. Most Italian tanneries use chromium sulfate and very few use only vegetable tanning.
It's impossible to consider leather to be a natural product when you look at the long list of dangerous chemicals that are used in tanning and dyeing and treatment and coating. The list of chemicals that are commonly used in leather making are biocides, surfactants, degreasers, swell regulating agents, lime, sodium sulfide, sodium hydrosulfide, low sulfide unherring agents, caustic soda, soda ash, liming auxiliaries, ammonium sulfate, ammonium chloride.
Although chemical waste is managed here, the air is still saturated with a smell of rot and chemicals. This is what Italian tanneries and their clients don't want us to see. But there's more to the story. A few years back, the European Union commissioned a comprehensive report on the leather industry in Tuscany. This report covers in detail the situation of workers in the Italian tanning sector. From health hazards and accidents to discrimination, the findings are far from being glamorous. One of the doctors quoted in the report agrees to our interview. Dr. Tonina Yaya is a lifelong expert on the health issues faced by tannery workers.
Quindi abbiamo effetti a breve termine, ma effetti a lungo termine. Cosa vuol dire? Quando si manifestano i problemi? Si manifestano immediatamente nel caso appunto di sostanze irritanti, sensibilizzanti o nocive, ma possono manifestarsi anche a distanza di 10, 20, 30 e anche 40 anni dall'inizio dell'esposizione a quella sostanza pericolosa. Le sostanze dotate di questa capacità sono appunto sostanze cancerogene. Vuol dire che quella popolazione ha un rischio in più di sviluppare un tumore. Dicevo, è un processo chimico sì, ma c'è un importante utilizzo di macchinari, perché le pelli vengono sì sottoposte all'azione di agenti chimici, ma sono poi lavorate con utilizzo di macchinari abbastanza pericolosi.
Chemicals are not the only concern. Tannery workers operate heavy machinery and many get into accidents. I speak to someone who worked 9 years in the supply chain of famous American and European brands.
Un Italien ne pouvait pas travailler là-bas. Il y avait des Sénégalais, des Albanais, des Marocains. Il n'y avait pas un Italien. On travaillait 13 heures par jour, puis on travaillait le samedi, 6 jours sur 7. Et même, des fois, on travaille même le dimanche, le matin. Ils nous traitaient comme des esclaves.
C'est dangereux de travailler dans les tanneries?
C'est dangereux. C'est dangereux. Ce jour-là, j'ai glissé. Oui. C'est entre l'intérieur des deux rouleaux. J'avais la chance que je n'ai pas les doigts coupés, mais j'ai un ami, lui, il s'est fait couper les 3 doigts. J'ai un autre, il s'est fait couper ici, le pouce.
His story is far from being an exception. According to data in the Tough Story of Leather, foreign tannery workers have twice as many accidents compared with Italians. I contact the head of the Senegalese community in Santa Croce to understand what it means to be an immigrant working in the supply chain for luxury brands.
C'est un travail dangereux, cancérigène. Ce sont des travails où les gens se blessent pratiquement chaque mois. Ce sont des travails où il y a beaucoup de risques. Ce sont des travails où les gens qui le font exactement ne sont pas respectés. Ces grandes marques-là le savent et ne veulent rien faire. À leurs yeux, la partie économique est beaucoup plus importante que la dignité humaine, surtout quand il s'agit aussi des immigrés.
Il y a aussi des problèmes au niveau des contrats?
Le problème des contrats, ça c'est un problème pour moi énorme. Certains ont des contrats maximum de 3 mois, renouvelables, mais la plupart ont des contrats d'une semaine. Il faut mettre les conditions de vie dignes pour chaque personne, pour pouvoir au moins faire une vie acceptable.
To say made in means nothing. There are factories outside of Florence where people are paid $2 an hour and they're working on major handbags and fashion companies' products, accessories, but they get the Made in Italy label even though they've been made in a sweatshop. You would have things that were made 99.9% in a foreign country, and then it could be said it was made in Italy or France because the laws were loose enough that if a certain percentage of the garment was made in the last steps of its production, if it was finished in these countries, they could carry the Made in Italy, Made in France label.
This is made in Italy. This is the reality. The skins come from all over the world. From the smell, the chemicals, the dead skins, no matter how good we want to make it look like, the whole process is not beautiful. I kind of want to leave, actually. Can we go?
Fur is the most controversial skin in fashion. Over the last few years, some brands have stopped using fur following pressure campaigns, but many are still using it.
Sustainability has definitely become a catchword in the fashion industry, and there is a lot of greenwashing. It's becoming kind of upsetting in a way because there are so many people doing good works, but the ones who have the most money and the deepest marketing pockets are the ones that are blasting that they're doing good works, when in fact, they're not always doing good works.
Do you care about sustainability?
According to the fur industry, faux fur is unsustainable, chemical and plastic-based, and leaks microplastics into the oceans. Meanwhile, the industry positions animal fur as sustainable, biodegradable, and natural.
Not an artificial chemical material. Real fur is a sustainable resource produced by farms or from a renewable surplus that can be harvested from the wild.
One thing that the fur and leather industry has done really effectively in the last several years is take a debate around what happens to animals used for materials and turn it into a debate about plastic.
The main communication strategy for this multi-billion-dollar industry is to present itself as green. The website furisgreen.com is copyrighted by Fur Council of Canada. Truth About Fur is representing the interest of the North American fur industry and the International Fur Federation. And behind sustainablefur.com, we find Fur Europe an interest group who spent €500,000 lobbying the European Union in 2019. To understand more, I meet with the CEO of Fur Europe.
The fur industry in Europe, we have about 4,000 farms. That is mink, fox, chinchilla and fin raccoon farms. We produce around 30 million mink skins and fox skins, yeah. My role as CEO is to take care of the interests of my members, to make sure that we promote fur positively, especially in a political context. Natural fur is a 100% natural product and it biodegrades, especially compared to the plastic fur, which pollutes the oceans, pollutes our nature. But also compared to that, the active life of our product is longer than you can see in any other product.
Can we get a little more in the environmental impact?
I cannot give you the figures of what we have exactly of impact now, but we are in the process of getting a full picture.
In reality, based on a study funded by the fur industry itself, only about 25% of a fur pelt biodegrades. And compared with synthetic faux fur, animal fur produces 7.5 times more emissions. On top of that, to prevent pelts from rotting, animal fur is processed using chemicals like formaldehyde and heavy metals.
There have also been studies on human health in association with wearing fur. And in Italy, garments that were intended for babies and children with fur trim showed that these dangerous carcinogenic chemicals were rubbing off on people. And this is an industry that wants us to believe that it's sustainable and natural.
The microplastic argument also doesn't stand. Faux fur doesn't get washed often, and certainly not in machines. It's starting to look a lot like the fur industry is using sustainability as a distraction.
I don't think we can talk about ethical fashion without talking about animals. To me, it's about a value system. It's about how we treat the planet, how we treat people, and animals are part of that conversation.
Is it acceptable to kill animals for fashion?
That is a very big question.
It's very well regulated, the pelting or the killing of the fur animals. It's something that is based on science. One of the big advantages of our sector is that we actually do not transport for slaughterhouses. We do not transport our animals for killing. So when the animal is killed, it's taken right out of its natural environment and put into either for the mink, it's put into a box with gas, or for the fox, it's with electricity. You kill it like that. So it's very humane. It's just outside its environment. It doesn't get stressed. It doesn't get panicked or have a long transport cramped with other animals in an animal transport.
Wait a minute.
And put into either for the mink, it's put into a box with gas, or for the fox, it's with electricity. You kill it like that.
This motion refers to the standard killing method on fur farms approved by Fur Europe. The electric current passes through a fox once one of the electrodes has been inserted in the fox's rectum and one electrode into the mouth, and the farmer pushes an on-off switch. And this is the fur industry's definition of humane.
Another reason they do this is because they need to preserve the fur. So if they were to kill the animals using, say, more conventional methods, that will destroy the quality of the fur because it'll become stained with the blood. And because these methods are so rudimentary and crude, what's been documented several times is that animals are actually skinned alive on fur farms. It's a form of moral insanity that we justify this behavior in any kind of way.
I've not experienced one person that came to a fur farm saying, I don't accept this. I have experienced many people going to a fur farm saying, whoa, is this really what's going on? There are all these pictures and myths about what is going on, but when you actually see it, it's an animal production. The animals are well, they are curious, they are lively. It's just an experience to go and see it. So that would always be my answer.
The RSPCA, which is Britain's leading animal welfare organisation, conducted a survey which showed, I think just over 85% of the UK public would not actively choose to wear fur. However, what we see is an increasing number of people wearing items such as, hats with pom-poms or key rings of pom-poms or coats with fur trims. They're aware that actually people don't want to buy these items anymore and they're undesirable. And so they've tried to sneak fur back into the marketplace by making it very subtle and very hidden. It's not only therefore something that's immoral towards the animals, but actually immoral towards the people who buy these products, because if they knew the cruelty behind it and they'd seen what happened to these animals, they wouldn't want to purchase it.
Over 100 million animals are killed every year on fur factory farms where everything is planned from birth. Babies are born in spring and grow confined in narrow cages. When winter comes and when their fur is fully grown, the animals are then killed and skinned. Some animals are kept for breeding for the next year in a never-ending cycle of birth, cage, and death. To make one fur coat, it takes up to 300 chinchillas, 60 mink, or 15 to 40 foxes. Fur farms exist in European countries, Russia, US, and Canada, but the biggest fur producer in the world is China. I lived in China for 10 years. Here, I am always reminded of the unstoppable pressure of consumerism. The country is ruled by a communist party, but almost everything obeys capitalist laws. With the ever-increasing purchasing power of the Chinese population, the fashion market here is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And the fur industry in China is worth $61 billion, way more than the rest of the world. To fully grasp the scale, I got my hands on a report by Act Asia, a charity educating the public on the fur industry practices.
中国在国际上呢，其实现在是最大的生产国。最大的这个消费国，同时也是最大的制造加工国。在整个的国际市场上呢，在这个拍卖市场里面，中国的买家都是非常具有它的分量的。
One of the major centers for the skin trade is just 1 hour outside of Shanghai. In department stores, entire floors are dedicated to fur for domestic and international sale. Posing as a buyer, I get offered wholesale price for all kinds of fur coats in several shops.
我们其实呢都不应该忽略中国在皮草产业跟它的国际交易上的一个角色，它其实是跟国际有非常紧密的一个关系。其实越大的养殖场呢，很多呢常常是有国际的投入的，比如说在大连的一个很大的养殖场，它已经有高达到5万多只的这个貂，它的繁殖种类呢都是从丹麦他们进口进来，从技术上、设备上呢都是从国外直接引进。所以呢，我们在谈整个的皮草的养殖跟产业的时候，其实已经是一个非常跟国际的连接的一个紧密的概念。
In this shop, I find wolf fur from the US, even though some wolf populations are endangered.
Original wolf. This is wolf, this is black. 里面你知道吗？全都是毛，对，全都是毛。
There's fur for any budget. For $1.50, you can buy a rabbit keyring made of real rabbit fur. In the back alleys behind the malls, I find raw pelts sold by the dozens at about $40 a pelt.
这些是国产。国产。嗯哼。
这是进口的美洲蚝。里面蚝子、玻璃水貂都有的。
所以很多人他在买这些产品的时候呢，是无意识的，甚至有20%的人不知道啊，原来我买的皮草里面是含有动物的成分存在的，是皮草动物。
是芬兰还是？
那个是芬兰。
芬兰。
对。
那这个皮草动物有可能是来自猫狗，也有可能它是来自野生动物。
会有区别还是？
一张跟它都养的这个吧，一张跟一样，它都不一样，跟人一样，长得都不一样的，它不是说这个同一个，它就是都是大型犬，这都是差不多，就是。你看，
你说这个是野生，那你怎么买？有关系。
你就是那便宜啊，230了。他说我2.8。
These are wild caught, and it's a protected species.
这一条条疤上有的疤，一看
100有几条
？30条以上。
你看到的那些在市场上一条一条的这个皮挂在墙上，放在地上，这些都是活生生的生命。
After Haining, I can't stop thinking about the animals. Back in Shanghai, a local activist shows me where all these pelts are coming from.
当我们在谈很多动物的议题的时候，常常你会觉得从一支视频，或是说从报道，或是从文字上去认知，一直到你自己到前线、到农场上或市场上去看到这些动物它们的苦痛，是没有办法以文字来去形容，它给你一个很大的真实感。
Shangli is the biggest raw fur market in China, so basically in the world. And it specializes in foxes and raccoons as well. And this is just like 300 of them here. This is just one backyard farm out of, I don't know, hundreds in the areas, probably thousands. We talk about these big numbers. We talk about 100 million, 120 million animals killed for fur every single year, year after year. But ultimately what it is, it's 100 million times one individual. I used to have a fur coat. It was a blue fox fur coat that I had. I didn't care. I felt like, oh, they're already dead, so I might as well wear it. And I didn't understand that because I was buying it, then they were living this life and they were killed for me. I didn't understand that. Yeah, I know. He makes the same noise as my dog. When my dog is upset, or like he feels like there's someone at the door, he would make that kind of noise.
当我看到皮草动物被屠宰、取皮，整个的过程里面呢，其实伤心跟自己的难过是无法去叙述的。常常呢，在很多天之后，甚至很多年之后，这些影像呢，都不断会浮现。
When the vast majority of people are exposed to images of animal suffering, they are deeply disturbed by what they see. The tendency is to want to turn away because it's painful. And it's painful because we care. We know that humans are hardwired to empathize with others. Empathy is our natural state, and yet most people also support industries that cause extensive and intensive harm to animals. And so this is like the million-dollar question, right? Why do caring people support cruel practices? This is what led me to discover what I came to call carnism. Carnism is the invisible belief system or ideology that conditions us to consume certain animals but not others. Carnism, because it's organized in a way that runs counter to core human values, such as compassion and justice, needs to use a set of psychological defense mechanisms that distort our perceptions and disconnect us from our natural empathy toward animals.
Let's say if someone was offered a wallet, a pair of shoes, a handbag or a purse, but they were told that it was made from puppy. Do I think that it would be readily accepted in the same way as if we gave them a bag made from cow? Definitely not. We have these arbitrary distinctions between specific animals. What's the difference between the fox that was killed for your pom-pom and the Labrador that could have theoretically been killed from the pom-pom? Of course, nothing. There is no difference. But people are being conditioned in a way to see differences.
It's woven through the very structure of society to shape norms, laws, beliefs, behaviors, etc. And it becomes internalized, shaping the very way we think and feel about consuming animals.
Animals disappear into fashion objects in a way that's very troubling and in a way that's intentionally hidden by the industry, by advertising. Fashion is so much about fantasy and creating fantasies, and those fantasies rarely showcase the reality of how an animal becomes a pair of boots or becomes a bag.
For example, when we're looking at a fur coat, is not the skin of animals who were slaughtered, but rather a garment, an attractive garment to wear. In other words, carnism teaches us how not to think and feel.
Over the course of 2 winters, I infiltrated several groups of fur trappers in North America. I found lots of bad apples. This is an industry that is unable to be enforced or regulated, and I think that's the reality of fur trapping in the States. There's big money to be made by someone who commits to sort of trapping professionally. You could get $400 or $500 on one pelt of a lynx. Thousands of dollars can be made. You imagine a trap line that's set out over 110, 120 miles, with a couple of hundred traps in there, then you can see how the money adds up. There's so many traps out there. Trappers forget where their traps are sometimes. Traps are left out of season. Also, there are many indiscriminate kills from traps. You can't pick and choose what you want to catch in a trap. You could just as easily be catching the family cat or the family dog that's strayed into the forest. Trappers are bloodthirsty people. They are trapping for the thrill of it.
It's darker red as that one you got.
Can you describe what you've witnessed?
Just thinking back to the sort of things that I saw on the trap line is, enough to send a shudder up my spine right now. I remember this raccoon and it lives with me every day.
Let's look at you a little bit, buddy.
He was drowned. It was like 6 minutes of fighting, of violence from the trapper, and the raccoon fought back. I remember it really well.
You're supposed to get more water. What's wrong with you? A little tougher than I thought, too.
But the thing that really stood with me from that memory was the raccoon already had a paw missing. It had been caught in a trap before and it escaped. It escaped by gnawing off its own paw, and that's what they do sometimes. I think if anyone was able to see that type of imagery, they would think again about whether they would go through that purchase. This is an industry that don't want society to understand what they do. They don't want their secrets shared with the wider public because, of course, if they are, then people would probably rally against this industry.
This is what these industries are scared of. If the fur industry had glass walls, what would happen? If we were able to see in about what it takes to make these products, what really goes into all of this, and we had that information when we were at the mall or when we were shopping, that's what they're terrified about, is that these activists are creating windows. The FBI is labeling nonviolent animal rights and environmental activists as the #1 domestic terrorism threat and choosing to ignore people who have sent anthrax through the mail, who have murdered human beings, who have stockpiled and created weapons of mass destruction. To explain how this happened, I think we have to talk about money. The real power of these industries when it comes to protecting their interest is influencing lawmakers and people in power. For 20 years, I worked in Washington, D.C., and you learn very quickly how to research contributions from individuals and companies to politicians. These protest groups have nothing. And meanwhile, these industries are not only contributing a lot of money to some politicians, they're contributing that much money to all politicians. They're sitting down with the FBI, they're sitting down with politicians. These are powers and influence that every single corporation on the planet wishes that they had access to. We all then know the story of David versus Goliath, and we see that playing out in this situation literally. I mean, these are a handful of Davids with not very much money or resources or access to influence that are going up against some of the biggest corporations on the planet.
Many brands have been ditching fur from their collections, but the cash cow for luxury brands is leather. For a brand like Hermès, leather goods represent about half of the revenue. For French luxury group Kering, who owns Gucci, Saint Laurent, and Bottega Veneta, 72% of the revenue comes from leather goods and shoes. 1.5 billion animals are skinned every year just for leather. That's more than the entire population of Europe and North America combined. And some of the most sought-after skins are those of lambs and calves. We are literally killing baby animals for handbags and shoes. On top of that, some high-end products like gloves use skins from fetus and stillborn animals. An investigator agrees to meet with me to show me what happens behind the scenes of leather made in France.
C'est une des plus grandes injustices et un des plus grands non-sens auxquels j'ai été confronté. C'est quelque chose qui ne devrait pas exister. C'est la première fois que je suis rentré dans un abattoir et c'est l'enfant qui est en moi qui a été directement atteint. C'est un endroit noir, froid, énormément silencieux mais à la fois très bruyant. C'est-à-dire que dans ce silence, il y a des cris, il y a des pleurs, ils ressentent la peur, ils ressentent la joie. C'est des individus. Associer le bien-être animal avec le mot abattoir, c'est un non-sens, c'est juste impossible. Il y a toute une partie de l'abattoir qui est dédiée aux peaux. Il y a des peaux de vaches qui sont entreposées. Là, celles-là sont pas sèches, elles ont encore du sang.
Il y a encore la chair dessus.
Oui, il y a de la chair. Elle baigne dans le sel et dans le sang. Là, les poils sont sèches. Elles sont pliées, mises les unes sur les autres, sur des palettes. Elles sont étiquetées, elles sont prêtes à partir. C'est un meurtre organisé. Tout est planifié de la naissance à la mort. Ils ne sont pas nés qu'on connaît déjà la date de mort. C'est pas ma réalité, c'est la vérité. Et montrer une vérité qui est cachée par l'État, par le système en place, ça embête, ça dérange. C'est des lobbies surpuissants Ils sont très bien en place, les campagnes publicitaires sont énormes. Il ne faut surtout pas venir déranger le confort dans lequel ils sont et le business. On parle de milliards et de milliards et de milliards d'euros, de dollars. C'est problématique pour de montrer la vérité.
Every country around the world has people in power that do not want to be exposed, that do not want to be pushed by social protest groups. Animal rights and environmental activists, even though they have not harmed a single human being, they have radically impacted corporate profits. And now some of the most powerful industries on the planet have coordinated to try to silence their opposition and shut these movements down. We're, I think, at a turning point in many countries where the basic idea of fact and of truth is being questioned. Journalism is being questioned. Undercover investigators are being criminalized. To me, this represents a true threat to our democracy itself.
At the Woolmark Fashion Show, I wonder, what about wool? Wool is used by many brands, from Nike to Chanel. It's used both for comfort and luxury. When we think of wool, we think of fluffy sheep, running free and peacefully grazing in nature. We would almost want to trade places with the animals.
Australia is home to 70 million sheep, and 38% of those are merino sheep. Merino is thought of as the finest and softest wool in the world, and Australia produces 80% of the world fibre supply of superfine merino. Mostly that is used for apparel. I'm focused on promoting Australian wool. Wool being a natural fibre has a lot of positive things that it does for the environment and a lot of potential for increased environmental sustainability.
Amongst all materials, wool has one of the best reputations. Eco-conscious brands and influencers are quick to endorse it. Wool is advertised as natural and climate positive. It does sound like a really good choice. But Australia Wool Innovation and its marketing arm Woolmark represent the interest of wool growers. I contact the founder of Collective Fashion Justice, a non-profit advocating for total ethics fashion for people, animals, and the planet. I really want to understand whether wool is as good as the industry says it is.
I think it's really important people understand that just because wool is a natural fibre, it doesn't mean it's sustainable. Animal agriculture as a whole isn't sustainable, so any material that comes out of animal agriculture is not going to be sustainable. Even if you look at just one element of the wool industry and you look at methane, which comes from enteric fermentation, it's essentially just sheep passing gas, burping, farting, even just breathing. Enteric fermentation and the methane that comes from that makes up 1/3 of New Zealand's entire greenhouse gas emissions. They have about 27 to 28 million sheep. Australia has around 70 million. If you look even at just that one element, you can see that natural system is not a sustainable one. And I think it's also important we say natural because sheep haven't always been in Australia. They're an introduced species. We breed them. They're not actually supposed to be a part of this natural environment. When you just shear wool off a sheep, it's greasy. You wouldn't want to wear that. In order for it to be a fibre that can be used in fashion, it has to be scoured, treated with detergents that are very chemical heavy, and from one wool scouring facility, the organic effluent alone is equivalent to the sewage of a town of 30,000 people. That's an enormous amount of waste coming from one wool facility. So when people say that wool is a natural fibre, yes it is, but the processes that happen to it in order for us to wear it are not natural.
It's also worth noting that Australia exports the majority of its greasy wool for finishing in China and other countries. It is then shipped back to Australia or around the world, further increasing the carbon footprint of wool products.
So wool is a wholly natural, renewable and biodegradable fibre. And because of that, it makes it a good choice for people seeking clothing that have minimal environmental impact.
You seem to know the data really well. You've heard of the Sustainable Apparel Coalition and their Sustainability Index, right?
Yep.
According to the data, wool ranks worse for the environment than synthetic fibers. What are your thoughts on that?
In terms of wool, in the production phase, all inputs and outputs are calculated, and synthetics are given what's called a free raw material. So the oil that bubbles up out of the ground all the environmental outputs are not calculated. So there's a skew in calculating how environmentally friendly natural fibres versus synthetics are.
According to Australia Wool Innovation, the data is skewed and inaccurately calculated. To verify these statements, I sent this interview to the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. A few days later, I receive a detailed response. This is a false statement. Synthetics are not given a free raw material. All impacts associated are accounted for. The same modeling principles apply to natural and synthetic materials equally.
And that's not necessarily to say that synthetics are sustainable either. It's just to recognise that when we go on about how harmful and destructive synthetics are, wool is worse than that, leather is worse than that, silk is worse than that.
So wool is not as good for the planet as the industry wants us to believe. But is it good for the animals?
The industry knows exactly what they're doing to animals, and they know exactly what they're doing to the planet as well.
The wool industry relies on a bucolic fantasy of rolling green hills, a little red barn, and a friendly haircut. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Is there more to the story than just shearing wool off their backs?
Mulesing is a procedure that is conducted on the vast majority of lambs in Australia. It involves cutting away at the wool-bearing skin around the backside of the lamb, as well as the tail. This prevents fly strike, and the fact that it's legal to do without pain relief is of great concern.
In fact, wool is weaved with suffering. Lambs are just a few weeks old when they go through painful procedures such as mulesing, castration, and tail docking. And once sheep can't produce good wool anymore, they're considered useless. Far away from the rolling hills, this is where all sheep end up. This sale yard alone is holding more than 35,000 sheep at any one time, including merinos who will be sent for slaughter or shipped overseas on live exports. Sheep can live up to 12 years, but even merinos get to live only about half that time. And not all lambs are kept for wool growing. Many are killed around 6 months old for meat and for sheepskin as well.
We're in this system that has normalised cruelty on a massive scale.
Just on the outskirts of Melbourne, I pay a visit to a business that trades up to 300,000 sheepskins every week.
These are all lambs.
These are all lambs. How do you buy the skin?
We deal with abattoirs who, say it's Coles Supermarket or Woolworths.
Yeah.
Woolworths and Coles buy their own live animals.
Okay.
They have them contract processed and slaughtered.
And then how determine
Then they themselves actually sell their own skins.
Yes, okay.
So
they sell the skin to you?
Yeah. The more wool on the skin, the more value it has, basically.
The whole usage is to supply a product, and that can be ranging from footwear, car seat covers, garment production, the use of Australian wool. It's endless.
Surrounded with thousands of skins, I realize this is how the disconnect happens. The animals are already gone, and every trace of them is carefully erased. Everyone is doing their job. The bits around the legs are cut off. Chemicals make the smell disappear and change the color. People and machines process skins to man's will to transform them into a material. And in the end, garment workers turn them into iconic boots worth hundreds of dollars. It's endless. Lambskin boots with fox trim, teddies made out of real lambs, more shoes, more boots. And that's how everyone forgets about the animals. Because in this system, there are no animals, only commodities. But as I learn, we haven't even reached the bottom of that rabbit hole.
One big issue for the industry is lamb mortality, because poor weather conditions, if it's cold and windy and rainy in particular, many lambs can die.
The conditions in an Australian winter can be very brutal. Rain, sometimes even snow. It's a very difficult environment for the newborn lamb. Winter lambing happens very specifically on particularly really big farms. Lambs are born in winter so that it saves the farmers money, that they don't need to spend supplementing feed. If lambs were born in the middle of summer, They would need to supplement feed, and there's a cost involved. The farmers are under a lot of pressure to produce a certain amount of wool. So there's a filter down effect basically that happens. And of course it's the sheep at the very bottom. Like with any business, it's all about weighing up the cost. Literally millions of lambs will perish.
Winter is not a natural time for sheep to give birth. But sheep are also selectively bred to have more twins and triplets, which makes the birthing process very difficult for the animals.
A lot of lambs become orphaned. Their mothers die during the birthing process. They don't stand a chance. The farmers know it, they're aware of it, they factor it in. Some of these properties are enormous, and we're talking thousands of animals. And even if they want to keep an eye on every single one, they can't do it. They cannot do it. I've been doing lamb rescue now for a number of years. The more I see it, the more I feel obligated to assist.
At this point, I wonder, are there orphaned lambs left to die behind that fence? There's only one way to find out.
We have a responsibility to do what's right rather than just what is the law. And I think what's morally right is more important.
I decide to join a rescue mission to see for myself.
There are certainly risks involved. Technically, you're entering someone else's property, so there's trespass issues. Because lambs are viewed as property, it's theft. There is also a risk of a farmer being very unhappy about you trying to intervene.
The way that I look at it, if I see someone suffering or someone in trouble, I will do whatever I can to help them. I don't care who they are. I don't care what species they are. If that happens to be against the law, I will still do it because I think it's the right thing to do. Do you
want me to hold that?
Oh, I'll hold that. That's right. I'll hold this.
So this one hasn't been stillborn. This one has actually been alive at some stage. So he sounds like he's getting further away. Hey, babe. Hey, darling. Yeah, hi. Hi, we're going to try and blind you a bit. Hi, babe. Hi, sweetie. Hi, hello. Hello, darling. He's brand new. He's brand new. So if you look, you can see his little cord is still very wet. So he's a brand new bub. I don't know if it's a So he's very wet. He's already very cold because he's wet. So we'll just wrap him up while we're walking.
One thing that always really breaks my heart is when you see these little babies and they're trying so hard to keep warm. They're so innocent and they're just sitting there just trying to make sense of the world, and there's no one looking out for them.
Yes, my baby, I know you're gonna get some. I think she said the boy. I know. I know. You're good, aren't you? Yes. You're good. You're there.
We crossed that fence with only one lamb rescued. Deep down, I ask myself, does this change anything? But then I look at him and I realize, for him, everything is changed.
So after the rescue, the lambs are warmed up. As they become healthy, they're rehomed to pet homes only. We want to be getting them out of the system. We don't want them going back, and they're put into homes where they're just loved and, valued for who they are and left to just live their life. I absolutely love them. So they're very much part of the extended family.
When I think about the animals, those individuals who are sitting confined in small wire cages, who evolved for millions of years to run and explore and swim and play, and they are spending their entire lives confined to a small space. When I think about the anguish and the horror that they experience, it makes me wonder, what's it going to take for us to be able to move beyond this?
I think that it will make it a lot harder for people to support these products, knowing where they came from.
Awareness is really the key to transformation, personal and social transformation. The more aware we are, the more we are able to access and connect with our authentic thoughts and feelings.
This is just one part of my closet, and almost everything has some kind of animal skin inside. I read somewhere that the most sustainable item is the one we already have in the closet. And it's true, we don't need to keep buying and keep consuming and, keep creating more demand for more stuff to be made. And I could definitely wear all of these until they fall apart. I mean, I have more shoes than needed, more bags than needed. But I don't think I can. I used to love all of this stuff. But now, I don't know, it's like a spell broke, and it's just a bunch of animals that suffered for me and for all this. And I mean, is it worth it? These are bunnies. How did I go from a little girl loving my bunnies to be so casual about wearing a rabbit fur jacket and fox and lamb and all of that? And it's crazy to think that the things that we consider the most luxurious in fashion, the softest skin, it's not just an animal skin, it's a baby animal. And again, there's nothing wrong if someone chooses to continue to wear whatever they have. But just for me, there's no way I'm going to wear any of this and feel good. I guess I'm just going to give away and sell all of it.
I think what's important is your next decision. When you next go out and purchase something, making sure that it doesn't have any animal skins involved or any animal byproducts. You've just got to make sure that that purchase is a good one. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything, but over time you might.
My thing is really just like pause before you buy and just evaluate whether it's a purchase you really want to make.
There are better alternatives, or there are better new ways of wearing and consuming fashion.
Faux fur is a life-saving fabric. Faux fur sends a beautiful message that you can have a similar look to real fur without having to kill animals, and it's very powerful. Faux fur should be the only choice. It can be short hair, curly, long hair. It can be colorful or really neutral. It can be a simple imitation of the pelt of an animal, or really something crazy never seen before. We have started last year a range of faux fur made from recycled bottles. And we are also coming with a new type of faux fur, which is made with bio-based ingredients.
All the way through the supply chain are treated ethically.
I really think that is out of fashion to
kill animal for fashion. So we use nothing coming from animals. We use no feathers, we use no fur, so it's no sweat, no wool, nothing. This jacket is 100% recycled plastic bottles. This is coming from fishnet mixed to recycled polyester. We want to make a new game.
A big objection that a lot of people have is that going to keep me warm.
We have been contacted by a vegan climber. We had this technology in-house, so we actually prepared a specific suit for him. With that suit, he actually succeeded the Mount Lhotse first, the K2 afterwards, and Mount Everest. This type of technology can keep you warm at those temperatures with heavy winds, and is more than enough for the cities.
And fashion's all about being progressive. It's all about looking at new trends, looking forward, what's sustainable, what's environmental, what's ethical. It's all about trying to reinvent. And so it makes so much sense for the fashion world to listen to what society's saying, to listen to what protesters and campaigners are saying, because often they're the ones leading these changes within society.
I really hope for a future where we don't kill any animals for fashion. Instead of breeding hundreds of thousands of cows on Amazon grasslands that have been deforested for this industry, instead we're perhaps using materials which have been produced in a lab, which have all of the performance and aesthetic properties that we want them to have, that haven't involved animals at all.
It doesn't have a place today, not with the innovation that's possible, not with the companies that have the capability to give us something that is superior to that.
Big designers that rely on their biggest businesses, which is based on handbags and accessories made out of animal skin, why are they not investing in sustainable practices? Because the templates are there now. You can get the most soft, beautiful, colorful, you name it, it's there.
The only limit to technology innovation is our imagination. Stella McCartney and Adidas are already adopting leather from mycelium underground layers. We can also make ethical leather from the waste of pineapple leaf fiber, or even from cactus in Mexico. We can even grow leather in a lab, directly from cells and without hurting animals. And we can also make plant-based wool from flowers and regenerative cotton. But before these become widely available, we already have animal-free alternatives.
I know that a lot of people say that, oh, faux leather isn't the same quality as real leather and it's not going to last as long. I've not had that problem. I think that's, again, just a common misconception.
There's absolutely no need to use animal skins in fashion today. There are so many great alternatives, and in fact, consumers are demanding to move away from animal-based materials.
Faux leather has just a bad reputation. What's your take on that?
There is this false perception that somehow, because it's animal-based, it's luxurious. That drives me crazy, because what could be further from luxury than what we know happens behind the scenes? There are so many amazing faux furs and vegan leathers out there that are beautiful to the touch, just as durable, more aesthetically pleasing. And with time, they actually stretch and move and bend in the same way that leather does. There's definitely plastic containing materials. There are definitely materials that are combining natural elements. Nothing is perfect yet, but we're definitely getting there. The alternatives that we have now are definitely an improvement from animal skins. It's something that all brands should really look at because it's really the way forward.
We as influencers have that responsibility. Of course, I have turned down a lot of money and work from brands that want me to promote leather items or wool or whatever, and for me, it's just a no-go.
Alternatives are going to be the actual choice in the future. At the moment, they're alternative because we're still experimenting, but one day that will replace the actual leather itself or the actual skin itself, because we have moved beyond that alternative title, because it becomes the norm.
The responsibility lies with both consumers and with brands. We can take actions ourselves. We are human beings. We need to change collectively.
It's so easy to be able to point the finger at the next person and say, well, listen, I'll stop when they stop. But at the end of the day, each one of us as individuals, you have to just be the one to decide. You can't go through life anymore just ignoring the suffering, ignoring the cruelty, ignoring what we're doing to the planet. I think that now is crunch time. And I think that if you're a modern person, you're an ethical person.
I'm an optimist, and I believe if we set our mind to it, we can change the way we do things, and we can make the world a better place. And I've always believed that.
Do we want to be people who are numbing ourselves out to the suffering of individuals who, if they had voices, to speak our language with, would ask us to please stop harming them? Who do we want to be, and how do we want to be on this planet?
It's going to take a lot of work to change fashion. But one thing we can all do is ask brands to stop using animals. And if we start to value life more than things, then maybe we can make a big difference.
I still